The Master Sword, the Blade of Evil's Bane, and now known as the sword that seals the darkness in the original Breath of the Wild, is obviously an incredibly important tool and weapon in the Zelda series. And while it was used to great effect in the original Breath of the Wild, it seems to be MIA in the sequel. As not only we don't see the Master Sword in any of the gameplay aspects of the second trailer, we can actually see right here that it's getting consumed by the malice in the beginning of the trailer in what I believe is the event of Ganondorf ripping off Link's arm. Despite that, Link is going to need a weapon, and with the ideas of him possibly going to the past and having connections to Skyward Sword, I believe that we might have an adventure in which we have to reforge or reclaim the Master Sword from times past that leads to a very important gambit. What's up guys, it's HMK once again with another Zelda Theory. This one is going to propose a very serious question to you guys, so I hope you guys are ready. Be sure to hit that like, comment, share, and most probably subscribe to HMK. Let's dive directly into the noise. Before the revelation of the missing Master Sword, I honestly thought that the Master Sword was going to be the sole weapon in Breath of the Wild 2, thus eliminating the need for other breakable weapons. And that thanks to the mysterious green glowing arm, we're able to infuse energy and elements into the blade. Well, so much for that idea. I mean, it could still happen, but still. In either case, this seems to be a very clever way on Nintendo's part in order to get Link back down to level 1, as we see that the Master Sword is still in Link's possession by the end of Breath of the Wild, and what seems to be the beginning of Breath of the Wild 2. But as it turns out, it seems that reawakening Ganondorf is going to have incredible consequences, in which it's going to cost Link the Master Sword and the use of his right arm. Now, it's still unknown if the Master Sword is truly destroyed or just taken away. For me, it can go either way, and I'll explain why later in the video. In either case, Link is going to need replacements. We already see that Link replaces his damaged right arm with the mysterious green glowing arm that gives him special abilities that looks to replace the use of the Sheikah Slate from the first game. But for the case of what goes in the hand, Link is definitely going to need some sort of holy weapon in order to stand against the malice. So this leads to the idea of Link possibly reforging the Master Sword in the past to take a variant of it to the future, which is something I feel is going to be very important to the story, as within multiple lore aspects of Zelda, going against Ganondorf without a fully powered up Master Sword is pretty much suicide. As we could surmise from the trailers, it seems that we're going to be revisiting the ancient skies of Hyrule. And the key to this narrative could be tied to 2 points, the mysterious green glowing arm, and the possibility of a remaining connection and contact with Fi, as we can see from her growing importance with the re-release of Skyward Sword HD, and her supposed subtle reawakening in Breath of the Wild. But if the Master Sword is lost, how will she be able to communicate with Link in Breath of the Wild 2? I feel that this is where the arm comes into play, that it could either act as a communication conduit for Fi, or it could contain various messages and instructions from Fi. And these instructions will lead Link to the past in order to find out the truth and possibly recreate the Master Sword. With the connections from Skyward Sword all but confirmed, possibly we can revisit the truth of the creation of the Goddess Sword. We know how the Master Sword came into being, or at least from the story of Skyward Sword, but perhaps we can go even further back before the time of Zelda and witness Hylia, and maybe even the old gods, forge the Goddess Sword from the beginning. And speaking of the goddesses, there runs the possibility of taking more elements from Skyward Sword in hunting down the Goddess Flame. You know, to reforge the Goddess Sword of the past into the Master Sword to take it to the future. And that may possibly run the narrative in order to locate and save Zelda of the future in order to gain the final blessing to the sword to make it the true Master Sword, just like she did in Skyward Sword. But why can't Hylia do it? I figure there's going to be some sort of temporal reasoning behind that due to messing with time. That's one way to look at it. There is another theory of my own design that I like to introduce that could bring about a gigantic gambit for the Zelda series. But first we have to answer the question, why didn't the Master Sword activate against the malice as we see in the trailer? Usually in the presence of this unholy energy and substance, the Master Sword would glow with a powerful blue gleam that is able to cut through everything that is the dark. However, in the trailer, it seems that this was a no-go. This could be due to a number of factors, but the biggest of which we have to understand is that the Master Sword is capable of being damaged by malice, as we can see in the promotional art for Breath of the Wild and from the scene itself in which Link is fending off multiple guardians in order to protect Zelda.
Don't worry about me. Run!
Many fans thought at first this was all rust and decay from an unknown amount of years of not being used, but as it turns out from the lore of the game itself and creating a champion, this is indeed damage from malice and protecting Zelda from an unknown amount of guardians. So if this situation was able to damage the Master Sword, it seems that Ganondorf at his prime with the pure red malice is possibly able to destroy the Master Sword, and thus the need to get a new one. And if we're not gonna go to the past in order to reforge the Master Sword, we might be going to the past for another reason: the Triforce, the almighty essence of the gods, the true force that is capable of granting any wish. And when I say any wish, I mean any wish. With the Triforce being absent in the original Breath of the Wild, and Ganondorf returning in Breath of the Wild 2, it seems to be very, very plain to see that the Triforce is going to return in some capacity in Breath of the Wild 2. Now, here are where things get spicy. The Triforce, either recovering it from the past or learning about its whereabouts from the past in order to find it in the future, brings us more than just power itself. It will bring us a choice, a gambit, in which I think this would be really cool if they pull this off, where getting the Triforce legitimately gives you a choice in game to either do one of two things: either restore the Master Sword or use it to defeat all malice in the world and possibly, in extension, Ganondorf, going along the lines of ending the curse. Now, this will come with a clash of ideologies and consequences that could pervade for a good portion of the rest of the game or even the rest of the Zelda series. On one side, if we destroy Ganondorf, the curse, and all of malice in the world of Hyrule at the cost of not being able to get the Master Sword back, it may truly end the curse of demise, but it would not stop the possibility of having other villains, other demons, other forces of evil to creep up and challenge Hyrule. And if any of those future possible threats are highly skilled in evil magic or demonic in nature, the lack of a Master Sword will definitely be a big problem. But you will probably think, why couldn't we just make two wishes? Why couldn't we just destroy Ganon, destroy the curse, destroy malice, and then make another wish in order to get the Master Sword back? Well, that's the question we have to ask ourselves. Would the existence of the Master Sword possibly spark the rebirth of a curse of demise due to the remains of Demise himself still within the Master Sword, thus acting possibly as half of the spirit of the hero, something that makes it whole, as alluded to in Breath of the Wild? But then we come to the other choice: using the Triforce to restore the Master Sword in order to have the weapon ready to be a beacon of hope and to destroy the malice and Ganondorf of that time, but also having the curse still intact, with the existence of the sword, hopefully promising hope for the future, having the existence of the tool necessary to strike down evil ready for future generations, that at the cost of having the curse of demise remain, we restore the light prepared to stand against it. This idea of the loss of the Master Sword and possibly having to reclaim it in some fashion indicates a forward connected story that isn't going to be broken in shambles like the original Breath of the Wild, but will have the choice to complete objectives going to a certain threshold in a free manner. I actually have a couple of theories messing around with the idea. Check them out in the end card and the description box below. Whatever the case may be, it does lead to the thought and the theory that we are going to be playing as a past link in certain intervals of Breath of the Wild 2, whether it be we go directly to the past as the link from Breath of the Wild, or we inhabit the body of a past link in order to wander the past, or maybe this might not be Link at all. But that's the theory and the subject for another video. I hope you guys enjoyed the video and the theory. Leave a comment in the comment section below of what you thought and your theories as well. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe to HMK for more Zelda content every week. It really helps out a lot. Big thanks to my Patreon supporters for helping making this video happen. If you want to find out how you can support HMK for just $1 a month, check out my Patreon info in the description box below. And don't forget to also check out my Twitch for live streams in which I'll be streaming Zelda as much as I can. Alright guys, until the next Zelda video, this has been HMK, and I'll check you guys later.